We now return to Let's Play Gris. Finally, the constellations we've been going for the entire time have become available. However, okay, I guess I do have some minor control in the same way I've had minor control in other sequences. I don't see anything beyond this, however. I cannot move faster. I'll just swim into the dark cloud because what could possibly go wrong with that? A little bit precarious jumping there. You know, though, before we go too much further, this looks cracked. Oh. I thought maybe I'd be able to get up there and bust the statue. Wait a minute. Oh, that's just in the background. I thought there was a hidden pathway that way. I think I'm missing something here. There's no way I'm going to make that. Huh. Let's try it. Oh, you... Are we right back where we started? Oh. I feel like that last little bit there was somewhat anticlimactic. I feel like they could have incorporated that into the final ascension without making the player have to interact with that. But I guess, in a way, it kind of incorporates the player rather than just making it a purely visual thing. At least the player had some involvement. I don't know how to feel about this game. Someone had mentioned in like the first episode that this really isn't much of a game, and it's not. Honestly, I agree with the comment that it should have just been an animation. I feel that the story and emotion that was attempted to be portrayed would have been just as effective as an animation, and would have perhaps been a little less, I don't want to say boring, but the unnecessarily long walk sequences were uninteresting, let's put it that way. Because I can see that perhaps from an artistic point of view, you'd want to give the player the chance to look around. Not focusing on what the character has to do, you're just walking along, gives you a chance to look at the background and all that. And while the art style is beautiful for this game, that's the one thing that is absolutely unquestionable, there wasn't really that much to look at that would require you to have that long of a time. So even in that sense, it was unnecessary to have those very long walk sequences that were also very slow. I mean, it's just, I'm going to be honest with you, I was ready to be done with this after the second episode, which I feel is part of the problem with the way the game plateaued and climaxed. Things didn't really get interesting until about halfway through. When there was enough mechanics to actually do stuff, the levels started becoming a little bit more interesting, and to a surprising degree of precision. The jumping was honestly like the hardest part of this, because whereas you could have a little bit of leeway everywhere else, like the platforming was almost precision. Like you had pixels that you could miss, which was kind of annoying because jumping should not be the most difficult part of your game. I feel like there were opportunities where they could have done more puzzly bits. So I don't know. As far as a game goes, and I'd mentioned this in several episodes previously, the mechanics are very simple, and the puzzles themselves, I think, were simpler than I had expected them to be. Especially having played, sort of a simple puzzle platforming game in Ghost Story, the video that I did Let's Quickly Play on. I mean, the puzzles in that were more complex than they were in this one. And a lot of the times it felt like I was not getting it just because the levels were really hard to perceive what was what. I had that issue several times with areas trying to go into the walls, I guess. Go into one room that was actually a wall, but in other areas of the game, what looked like it would be foreground was actually background. You could pass through and vice versa. I know that visually there were areas that were darker to indicate that they were pushed to the background, but that was not always the case. And so just sort of, for me, there was the combination of unnecessarily slow pace with the difficult to understand what was what part of getting around. So let's see this extras thing. So I guess I can go through and apparently that's sort of what all of the memento stuff is for. You're supposed to collect it for something here. I do not feel compelled to do this, unfortunately. And I feel like if there is some little extra story bit for collecting all of those things, then I'm just going to have to recommend you to watch somebody else who did things a little bit more completely. Yeah, I mean, the art style was amazing for this game. Did we see the cloak change? I don't know if I noticed that little detail. It would have been interesting if it did change with the colors. But I mean, it's just such an interesting visual world, visual style, that this really should have just been an animation. I think it could have been a very cool animation. But, you know, if there were, or if there is something extra for collecting all of the, oh, look at that. Up there in the top right, I actually don't have a mouse available right now. The shadowy figure that's turned into humanoid. That's the bird, clearly, but... And did we find that underground chamber with the statue in it? I don't know. Obviously, this doesn't necessarily indicate that this is what the level was, but rather a concept for it. Anyway, back to my thought there. If there is, in fact, something extra for getting all of those things, I'm not sure that it's compelling enough to make me want to do that, or a player in general want to do that. If it is integral to the story, sort of the background of what was going on there, you know, the little achievement that just popped up there at the end that said acceptance immediately made me feel that this whole time, all these statues, all of this was dealing with the death of a mother, sister, lover, whatever the case. It dealt with loss, and maybe even loss of a person, you know, herself, her own personality, or whatever the case, whatever the actual interpretation of all of this was. You know, if the extras that I can gain from going and collecting all of those things unlock something integral to that, I don't feel like that's something you need to make players go and collect. Now, I'm not saying to... let me rephrase that. It's not necessary to replay to collect. You know, think about Guacamelee, right? And, oh my god, I'm still partially traumatized by that game, but there were many aggravating places you had to go to get all of the unlocks so that you could get the actual best ending for that game. But the thing is, I was never locked out of being able to go back to those at any point. This game, you know, if this had incorporated that same thing, which apparently there is, why was I locked out of it? Now, the only thing I can think from a game design standpoint is that replayability. It is to get you to go back and do these things. That, to me, is wrong, especially when the game itself... Gameplay. Let's talk about just pure gameplay mechanics. If this had just been wiped away as it is now, and it was just pixels, you know, Mario-style characters, very simplistic, this would not be an interesting game. So I would not feel compelled to then go explore those levels to find the thing that maybe will unlock whatever it is that you get for collecting all of them. Like I said, I'm going to go to a YouTube video just to find out. So, I mean, you know, like, there is no reason in my mind that the player should not be able to go back after having missed something to then collect it again. The immediate case that comes to mind was when I was at that balloon area, and I had unlocked the balloon, and it was the windmill level. And I decided, well, wait a minute, because this looks like it goes for a ways, which was deceptive in itself, probably, but, you know, as soon as I had finished the windmill, there is no reason that I could not then have leapt off the left side of that to then go and unlock that and find the things. But the level design put that barrier right there that meant I could not get back down. I don't see a reason for that game design-wise. And I feel like there was a lot of areas where being locked out of something, or there are two choices and you're not really sure what to go down, and I always appeared to have picked the wrong one. I mean, I just don't feel the necessity of that. I don't understand it. And it caused frustration for me because, at first, my gameplay style is that I like to explore, and, I like to make sure that the choice I'm making is, in my mind, the correct one. So I'll go a little bit, see down the path, come back, go look at another bit, and this game punishes you for doing that. You have to choose, and apparently you have to choose right. I just, again, I don't see the necessity of locking a character out, or locking the player out of being able to go somewhere within the same level. It makes sense to me, once I reach the quote-unquote boss part of the level and move on to another color area, that, yeah, I can't go back. I still feel that since we kept coming back to that central hub, there maybe should have been a way for me to go back. But, it's enough that once you solve a final puzzle of a level, you're locked out of it, fine. But to have been locked out of it whilst I'm still there, that is what grinds me, because I don't understand why that decision was made. Like I said, it's not that interesting of a game to compel me to go through it again, just to find out that extra little bit. To me, that feels like a decision on the part of the designers that they just assumed people would do that. Because, let's admit it, there is a healthy dose of compulsion to collect and 100% things. Everyone likes that. There are many games now. I mean, even Steam games. Let's just look at Steam games and Steam achievements. People love to find all the achievements. It's a part of human nature, but it's not something you should rely upon. And, yeah, I don't know. But I do know it's time to end the episode and the series. This has been Gris. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I will see you in the next Let's Play.